Good afternoon and welcome. I'm really pleased to be with all of you today. As you know, our strategic planning process is well underway, and as we continue to review data and engage in meaningful conversations across the campuses, it's equally important that we bring in external perspectives, especially from leaders who are closely connected to industry and workforce needs. Our presidential speaker series is designed to do just that, bringing leading voices to CT State to spark dialogue, challenge our thinking, and connect our work to broader shifts in higher education and the economy. These conversations help inform our strategic direction while keeping us innovative, responsive, and student-centered. Today, we are pleased to welcome Paul Lavoie for a conversation on workforce development and how we can better connect education to career pathways. The connection between classroom and career has never been more important. Employers are evolving quickly, industries are changing in real time, and higher education has a responsibility to move just as quickly to ensure our students are not just prepared, but truly ready to succeed. At CT State, this work is central to who we are. As a statewide institution serving more than 65,000 students, we play a critical role in preparing Connecticut's workforce, whether in healthcare, manufacturing, IT, or emerging fields. Today's conversation is an important opportunity to think more deeply about how we strengthen those connections, how we listen to industry, align our programs, and ensure that our students leave here with the skills, experiences, and confidence to step directly into meaningful careers. Before we begin, I encourage you to share your questions in the chat throughout the session. We'll reserve time at the end to address as many as we can. Paul will begin with a keynote presentation followed by a discussion. And now it's my pleasure to formally introduce Paul Lavoie. Paul currently serves as the Vice President of Innovation and Applied Technology at the University of New Haven, where he leads efforts to strengthen the connection between education, innovation, and workforce development. He previously served as Connecticut's Chief Manufacturing Officer, where he played a key role in advancing the state's manufacturing strategy and building stronger partnerships between industry, education, and government. His work is focused on addressing workforce shortages, modernizing career pathways, and positioning Connecticut as a leader in advanced manufacturing and innovation. In 2024, Lavoie was named one of the top 5 chief manufacturing officers in the world by Manufacturing Digital magazine, joining leaders from Michelin, General Motors, Ferrari, and Johnson Controls. Throughout his career, Paul has been a strong advocate for aligning education with workforce needs in real world. He has worked closely with employers, educators, and policymakers to develop more responsive systems that prepare students for in-demand careers while supporting economic growth in the state. His leadership has helped shape initiatives that connect students to hands-on learning, expand apprenticeship and training programs, and ensure that talent development keeps pace with industry change. Welcome, Paul, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you so much, President Royal, and I'm honored to be here today to talk to my friends and partners at CT State. As I look at the folks that are coming on to the call, I see so many friends and so many people that I've worked so closely with over the years, and that we all serve with that same passion. And that same passion is, how do we provide young people with the state of Connecticut with amazing opportunities for them to continue to grow and also to help meet the needs of the wonderful industries that we have here in the state of Connecticut. I think most of you know that I am Connecticut born and raised, born here in Connecticut, educated in Connecticut, worked my entire career in Connecticut, and I'm a first generation high school graduate. So I don't come from this great education base, and it really makes me appreciate the value of the work that we're doing and the importance of that work, and how by providing young people with opportunities to succeed, that we can rewrite the script for so many people here in the state of Connecticut and to provide them with amazing opportunities. As Chief Manufacturing Officer, as I have served around the state, I visited close to 400 manufacturing companies in over 3.5 years, engaging with them to help understand what their challenges are, and then to work to provide them with real solutions to help them with their challenges. And their challenges are threefold. First and foremost is a lack of an available and skilled workforce for them. Second is the resiliency of their supply chain. And the third issue is around innovation, but it's not around the process of innovation, it's around the adoption of innovation. You know, their innovation is about 7 generations ahead of our ability to adopt that. And so now my work here at the University of New Haven is, how do I create an ecosystem that is industry-led and industry-driven, but yet student-centered? So I want to share with you how at the University of New Haven we are revolutionizing higher education in a way that is going to lead to much better outcomes and much better outcomes for all of us. And I also want to let you know that CT State is an incredibly important partner for the University of New Haven, as we should be. CT State should be an incredibly important partner for every four-year institution across the state. We are all part of an ecosystem, and that ecosystem is designed to serve our customers, to serve industry, to serve students. And the better that we can collaborate and coordinate within that ecosystem, the better we're going to be to serve our customers, both industry and our students as well. So when I share with you what we're doing, I hope that you learn from it. I hope that you embrace it, but I also hope that you continue to reach out and to figure out how we, as an ecosystem, can work together to provide amazing opportunities for students. You know, at the University of New Haven, we understand the pressures that everybody is facing in higher education. Right? We're all looking at demographic shifts, and we're all looking at, you know, there's fewer students that are looking for higher educational opportunities. We're seeing towns where 95% of their students went on to a 4-year, 2-year degree or military, and those numbers dipping into the 70s. Certainly with what's happening with immigration and the immigration policies, we're seeing decreased enrollment as it relates to that as well. The student that we have coming in to the university is a very different student that's coming into the education process. At the University of New Haven, our students, 47% of them are first-generation college students. So we see really a lot of students that are coming in without any expectation of what higher education should be, and we have to create that for them. Now, we all know the cost structures and the value proposition, and we have to talk about return on investment as it relates to higher education and what we're doing. There certainly is this misalignment with industry needs, but understand, and the fragmentation of employer partnerships, but understand that it is industry has a responsibility that they have not fully embraced as it relates to engagement with academia and the relationship. You know, as I traveled around the state and as I continue to do that, you know, in the 6 months that we've had corporate partnerships here at the university, we've engaged with over 200 corporate partners. And what I keep continually hearing is that education doesn't produce for us the workers that we need. And my response back to them was, well, do you make parts for customers that they don't need? And they look at me and they say, no. And I said, of course you don't, because you're listening to your customer. So are you now, in fact, you know, engaging with higher education to help them provide for you the students that you need? And then the light bulb goes off when they realize that, wait a minute, they have an important role and an important responsibility in making sure that we are partnering to provide them with the level of the workforce that they need. And we're going to talk a little bit about digital and AI readiness and how how we really need to embrace that as academia and as universities as well. And so we're faced with these challenges of cost structures, declining enrollment, lack of engagement with industry, but there's a path, and there's a path forward, and I want to share with you at the University of New Haven what we're doing and what that path is, and I hope this inspires you to see some ways that you at CT State can do this as well. And what we're looking at is around these success factors and things that we really need to be doing. And that is really understanding what our mission is. You know, at the University of New Haven, we talk a lot about who our students are, who we attract, and what our mission is and where we fit in the ecosystem. And people will come to us and they'll bring us ideas and we'll say, listen, that isn't us. That doesn't fit us. That isn't what we do. It is a great idea, but it doesn't really fit. And because we have that mission clarity, it really helps frame for us that focus. You know, I'm always, I like to say the hunter who chases 3 rabbits catches none. So we really need to be focused on who we are, what is our identity, and how can we best play that role. And for us, it's really about how we create students who are better than ready to go into the workforce, and then how we work with industry to help them adopt technology. We have little or no focus on becoming an R1 research university or investing a lot of money into research. What we're really focused on is the adoption of technology, where the rubber meets the road. How can we take this applied technology and help manufacturers and help other companies grow and help them rethink their business models and allow them to continue to be more effective and more efficient. We're deepening employer engagement and integration. This is beyond what we're calling advisory boards. This is actually listening, leaning into companies, listening to what their needs are, learning about that, and then adapting what we're doing here at the university to what industry wants and what industry needs. We're redesigning curriculum, credentials, and pathways. While I served as the Chief Manufacturing Officer at the University of New Haven, we have 5 schools. We have the College of Engineering, the College of Business, the College of Health Sciences, the College of Arts and Sciences, and the College of Criminal Justice, Forensic Science, and National Security. And the Dean of the School of Health Sciences and I met with a local hospital recently. And what we did is we started talking about some of our curriculum and how they felt that our curriculum wasn't meeting their needs. And so when we talk about redesigning curriculum, we're talking about doing it across the entire university and really figuring out how we're going to best serve industry. When we look at credentials and pathways, as we continue to accelerate the speed of technology, we need to really take a look at how we're adapting what we're doing as a university to meet that speed of change. And that's where stackable credentials and micro-credentials and other pathways come into play. Not necessarily always delivering against a degree, but also helping them get to stackable credentials that can create a degree. Boy, you talk about rebalancing cost structures. Here at the University of New Haven, we lost 3,000 international students over the last 2 years, and that's really made us take a step back to say, how do we rebalance our cost structures to be a cost-effective university at 6,500 students, not at 9,000, and really rethink all of that. And I want to share with you on how we're moving here at the University of New Haven from what it's called a just-in-case model, which is we're going to teach you a bunch of stuff just in case you might need it, to what we are calling the better than ready model, and how we're preparing students who are better than ready to enter into the workforce. So we have headwinds, we have challenges, but these are all challenges that if we rethink and reinvent and rewire our educational process, that we'll be able to meet head on and we'll be able to enjoy great success in the future. So I'm going to share with you this 4-step approach at the University of New Haven and what we're doing. And these are really designed all around industry's 2 biggest challenges, which are workforce shortages and technology adoption problems. And I think it's clear that we need to understand that we're never solving our workforce challenges with people. There's never going to be enough people to fill the open jobs that we have in Connecticut. There's never going to be enough people in America. In America, death rates are now exceeded birth rates, and they will continue that way for the next couple of generations. We are not producing enough workers in our system to meet the needs. So that means that the only way that we can grow our workforce is through immigration. We need to have access to a global workforce, but yet under the current environment that we're in, we're turning that workforce away. So we are never going to solve our challenges with people. We're never hiring our way out of the problem. And we need to look at technology and the adoption of technology in conjunction with addressing the workforce needs, which means we need to be developing a workforce that is technology enabled, because that is the only way we're going to increase productivity, increase efficiency, increase output in any arena in such a way that we're going to have meaningful growth here in Connecticut and here in the US. And so these challenges are not siloed. They are fully integrated together. Workforce and technology go hand in glove, and we need to make sure that we are addressing the two of them together. So let me talk to you a little bit about our first building block in our Better Than Ready model, and that is around curriculum co-creation and program design. And so what we're doing is we're building programs with employers, not for them. And we're redefining industry roles. And so we're doing joint workshops with companies. We're inviting them to review our curriculum. We're doing capstone projects that help us understand what challenges are and how we can better solve those challenges. And we're doing continuous feedback loops. Just to give you an idea of how this works and what we're doing is we were invited into Sikorsky for a 6-hour review of everything new that they're doing and what direction that they're going as it relates to technology, so that we can inform our curriculum to meet the needs of the aerospace industry and the vertical lift aerospace industry, which of course, I think as we all know, Connecticut's #1 in aircraft engine and airplane parts manufacturing. Aerospace Alley runs right up the center of our state. And so for us here at the university, we need to be in tune to these major industries. And Sikorsky opened their doors for us, and we brought in our deans and our professors and our other folks to just learn what they're doing so that we can then be more informed around developing curriculum. And I encourage you to reach out to companies and ask them to open their doors to be able to teach you where they're going so that you can inform your curriculum as well. You know, we're building out the Elevation Center here on campus at the University of New Haven. It's a 133,000 square foot building where we're going to invite industry in to share with us where they're going. And this is going to be open to everybody in the ecosystem. So we'll invite you to come in to be able to learn from industry as well as we continue to build the Elevation Center. So the first building block is making sure that we have industry-informed curriculum. You know, we're innovating at the speed of relevancy while the speed of relevancy is accelerating. And here at the University of New Haven, we think the minimum acceptable standard is our curriculum. It keeps pace with industry and with industry innovation. Our mission is to be a step ahead. We want to be one step ahead of industry as it relates to our curriculum and informing our curriculum in a way that is going to produce graduates who are at minimum at pace with industry, but more importantly, 1 or 2 steps ahead of industry so that they can, when upon graduation, go into environments where they can help lead. The second piece of our building block of the Better Than Ready model, and this is one that fascinates me. Right? Industry will tell you that their biggest challenge on entry-level hiring is 40% of them said in a study that lack of relevant job experience is their #1 issue as it relates to entry-level hiring. Yes, the irony of that statement has not escaped me, and it should not escape you. Industry is telling academia when they go to hire an entry-level worker, they don't have relevant work experience. Well, isn't that the definition of an entry-level worker? Here at the University of New Haven, what we're saying is, okay, industry, we hear you, but if you want graduates who have relevant work experience, you need to bring us relevant work projects. And we are in the process right now of building an experiential learning center where we are working with industry to enter into master partnership agreements where they agree to bring real projects to the university to work on with our faculty and our students to do real work for universities. Think internships and capstones on steroids. These are projects that are quoted out with a statement of work. They are attached, a financial number is attached to this, and these companies are paying the University of New Haven to build applications for them and to solve problems for them. We've done workshops on tariff mitigation. We are building AI applications for companies. We are helping them lean out shop floors. We are bringing real work to our students so our students can have this real experience. We've got 7 master research agreements in place. We have 11 in review, and we're engaging with projects now. When the center is complete, you think of tens and tens of companies coming in, working with hundreds and hundreds of students around real projects, real work. This has to be real meaningful work so that a student upon graduation can say, hey, I built AI models for this company and they are in use at that company today. So you see, I have relevant work experience. Our goal is to produce college students that have 2 years experience. And that's what we're working to do by really holding industry accountable to that statement that says that they want workers with real work experience. Well, if that's what you want, then you need to bring us those work projects. You need to engage with us. You need to be able to do that. And the response from industry has been overwhelmingly positive as we go out there and say to them, bring us your challenges, bring us your work. We'll put energetic students against your projects, and we will professionally manage that for you. You know, we hear one of the biggest things that we hear from industry is, well, we tried to do that with academia, but academia dropped the ball. Well, here at the University of New Haven, we have professional project managers that are making sure that we're living up to our commitments to industry. And it's important that you have that in place to be able to make sure that we can live up with that. You know, the third thing that we hear from industry that we hear all the time is that graduates don't have the work skills that are needed. And you can call them soft skills. I've heard them called workplace skills. I've heard them called many different things. Here at the University of New Haven, we call them durable skills. Those are the skills that you should have learned while you were growing up, but in the environment that we have, we don't necessarily have those skills. And those are things like critical thinking, communication, interpersonal skills, leadership, self-management. Industry has flat out told us that students are not prepared to work. And here at the University of New Haven, we've created what we call the Charger 11. These are 11 skills that industry has identified that students don't have, and we are baking those into the culture of this university. We hold regular sessions with our faculty around what the Charger 11 skills are, and we hold our faculty accountable to building these skills into their curriculum and building them into the experience here at the University of New Haven. We're redefining work study projects that we have here at the university to make sure that these skills are baked in. And we are actually building a program to certify students that they are competent in these skills so that when a student leaves the University of New Haven, we want them to be able to say, my curriculum was defined by industry and created in conjunction with industry. I did real work with real companies, and I am certified in 11 of the 11 skills that you demand from people in the workforce. And oh, by the way, any company I can argue that any company needs this durable skills training for their existing workforce, and it provides us with an opportunity for incumbent worker training as well, and it provides you with an opportunity for incumbent worker training if you embrace this critical skill training within your curriculum and within your offering for your students. And so we want to be able to certify that our students are better than ready to enter into the workforce. And the fourth piece of this is really around, the fourth piece of this is around turning our career development center into a job placement center. And the way that this works is that every student at the University of New Haven as a freshman is required to upload a resume into our system, and we go out to industry and say, give us an order. Tell us what you're looking for from interns, and if we want to create programs around what you're looking for, we can create programs. We're working with a manufacturing company right now. They're looking for salespeople, so we're actually creating a program for them where they're investing into our students to help build a hub around training sales skills that will provide them with a steady stream of better than ready people that can go into their program and into their sales program. They're investing in us to build these programs to help build their workforce and to help build their workforce and get them ready. You know, what we're doing here at the University of New Haven, we're welcoming in September, August, we'll welcome the class of 2030, and then we're going out there and recruiting the class of 2031. And I ask companies this all the time. Please tell me what your business is going to look like in 2030 or what your business is going to look like in 2031. And you know the look I get. That look I get is, I've never thought of that. Now, there are companies out there that are thinking of it, right? The RTXs of the world, the Lockheed Martins of the world, the General Dynamics, the ASMLs, the Medtronics of the world are thinking about what that's going to happen. But the small to medium-sized companies that we serve are not thinking about that. And this is where we have an opportunity to step into that space and to start thinking about this future of work and the future of the workforce and how we can lean into industry and how we can help redefine the educational experience so that we're delivering a better ROI, we're delivering a better experience, we're delivering better value, we're delivering students into the system who are better than ready to accept these jobs and accept these careers. And one thing I can tell you that is if we do that, we will create lifelong learners who are going to continue to come back to our institutions to be upskilled, to be reskilled, to bring their teams in to make sure that their teams can get the same experience that they got when they went through their educational experience. This is a window for us as members of higher education for us to take the lead, for us to step into this gap, for us to teach industry what it means to develop a workforce that's going to meet their needs, because they're not going to do it. Industry is too busy being industry. They're too busy making parts. They're too busy serving customers. They're too busy doing that. Government is not a reliable partner because government is temporary. Governments come and go. And so you can get temporary relief from the government, but you're never going to get a long-term strategy for the government. We need to be the long-term strategist. We've been around forever. We will continue to be around forever, but we need to be thinking 2 years ahead, 3 years ahead, 4 years ahead as to what the future of work is and how we can meet that moment for industry. Thank you very much, and I'm happy now to go back to President Royal and engage in the conversation.
Thank you so much, Paul. That was a really insightful presentation. There were so many insights that I was taking notes on, and I definitely wanted to touch on these and get into a conversation with you. At the same time, I will invite people to go ahead and put some questions in the chat. I will also be sure to address those as we go forth. To start, though, you had a lot of amazing insights around the curriculum process and how that needs to be reimagined as business and industry being a co-creator of that process. You've worked in higher education, and help me and help the rest of us understand, what does it look like to change our curriculum process, where the heart of the curriculum process is really the faculty member as the content expert. So what does it look like to be able to migrate to a process that you're talking about?
Yeah, that's a great question, because it really starts at the top, right? It really has to start with here at the University of New Haven. President Frederickson has a very, very strong vision about how we create the elite workforce, the global elite workforce of the future. And it has to be with curriculum that is informed by industry. So when you start with that really strong message at the top, then that trickles down to where people start to, faculty members start to think about that. But I think that my experience here at the university has been that the faculty members are 100% committed to the success of students. And when they're committed to the success of students, it means that the better they can prepare them for the real world, the better they feel about how they do their job. And so by bringing them into industry and listening to industry, bring industry in and having that engagement, it becomes this, it's not industry telling academia, and it's not academia telling industry. It's academia and industry sharing this one thing that we have in common. And this one thing that we have in common is the success of the student. So I think it really has to be grounded in what are we doing, right? And why are we doing it? And we're doing it to create successful workers, right? We're creating the next generation of workers and to make students successful. And I think when you frame it in that sense, people start to move to the middle and they really start to come together and they say, I see this, I get it, I understand it. We've had the early adopters, we have the initial skeptics who are like, well, we'll see how this works. And they're like, well, it's working. And then we'll have, we still have some folks that are like, that, don't necessarily subscribe to this as well. But on a whole, I have been pleasantly surprised with the response that we've gotten from faculty around intuitively knowing that this is right, that the better we are engaged with industry and the better we're informing our curriculum and making sure that it's up to date. And by the way, that's exciting too, because you're now in with what's happening, not, you're in the present. The future's already happened. We're just trying to catch up to it. So now you're in that catching up to the future versus necessarily being stuck in the past. And I think that's just exciting for people in this kind of world right now. So that's what we're seeing. But it really starts with, again, that mission clarity around, who we are and what we do and why we're doing it. And when people buy into that, that everybody starts, it's the flywheel. We just start spinning the flywheel, and then we just keep tweaking it to spin it. So.
And this is wonderful timing for this discussion because we are right in the middle of a strategic planning process. So I think these are really wonderful thoughts that you have in seeing the way that you've adjusted to changes, necessary changes in business and industry. So I want to touch on a big topic, and I saw a question in the chat about this, about how AI is influencing, and I would say AI is no longer a future conversation. It's already shaping how we get work done. From where you sit, AI is best understood as a tool or a threat or a collaborator. How should that shape how we prepare students, and how should it shape how we operate?
Yeah, we spend a lot of time thinking about this, President Royal, and so first off, I think you have to understand artificial intelligence and where we are in the artificial intelligence continuum. So there's three types of artificial intelligence. There's what's called ANI, which is artificial narrow intelligence. That's the phase that we're in right now. The second phase is artificial general intelligence. Artificial general intelligence says that AI is as smart as a human, right? Artificial narrow intelligence is it's only as smart as humans allow it to be. AGI is going to be as smart as humans, and artificial superintelligence is going to be where it's smarter than us, right? And it's, and so understand that we are in ANI right now. There are people out there that say AGI will be 3 to 5 years out or we'll never get there. And there are people out there that hope we never get to ASI, because you can only think of the evil applications that artificial superintelligence can get to. But the path is pretty well defined. So as we sit in this ANI and in this artificial narrow intelligence, it's critically important to understand that artificial intelligence is a tool. And it is a tool that human beings get to determine how we use this tool. Much like the personal computer was a tool, much like the smartphone was a tool, much like the internet is a tool, artificial intelligence is a tool, and it can only be used by human beings who allow it to be used either ethically or unethically, or as a tool or not at all. And so our approach here is it's a tool. So if it's a tool and it's a tool in our toolkit, how are we going to use this tool in our education process? How are we going to allow faculty to use this tool to be more productive and to make their lives easier? How are we making sure that this tool doesn't replace critical thinking skills, doesn't replace communication skills? Because at the end of the day, technical skills are temporary. And I think it's important for us to understand that I've lived through 5 technology revolutions in my career. I have had to reskill myself 5 times for technology reasons. The technology that I use today is light years different than the technology I used when I started my career. And I know that the technology that I use today is going to be obsolete 2 years from now, 3 years from now, and 4 years from now. So we can't get away from, especially in teaching and learning, around making sure we're teaching durable skills, because those are the ones that last. Adaptability, flexibility, a thirst for learning, critical decision making, communication. And I think we have to frame it in how do we use those tools to enhance those experiences while we're working with the populations whose brain is still evolving and brain is still learning. Now, somebody like myself or taking a look at how we adopt artificial intelligence in administration and staff, a little bit different, because I use it as a thought partner. I use it as a partner that helps me think, or it's no different than me having somebody really smart sitting in my office and me asking it questions. Yeah, and how would you do this? How would you approach this? I'm about to go into a board meeting. A board meeting member is really mad at me. Ask me questions that board member would ask me. Right? Using it as my thought partner to be able to help me become a better thinker and to help me get better results. So when we look at it, we have to look at artificial intelligence in the faculty sense, and how do we help the faculty become better and stronger using artificial intelligence? How do we help students become better students by adopting these tools and not letting it replace critical thinking for them? And then how do we adopt it administratively as well? And those are 3 very separate initiatives, and they all center around training, education, and adoption. And we need to have solid programs around that say, this is how we're going to use it, this is how we're going to allow it to be used. But to say that it's not going to be used, I think that horse has left the barn. And I think we have to now embrace it as a tool, but understand that 2 years from now and 3 years from now, we're going to be having the same conversation. We're going to have the same conversation next year. Because the gap in these technology evolutions is closing considerably, and this is going to be the new normal. How are we going to take these tools and integrate them? And we no longer can stick our head in the sand and say, hey, we're just not going to do it.
I am so glad to hear you talk about and reference the fact that you've had to reskill multiple times, because we sometimes think that these are the new terminology, new language, new way of thinking, but the reality is we have been adapting to how technology has impacted our society for quite a long time, since the internet became much more readily available in the public space. And so this idea of having students recognize that we are teaching them skills for now, but they are going to have to continue to transition into other things, and they're going to have to upskill and reskill, unlearn different aspects. So I really appreciate that perspective, because we are already doing a lot of these things. It's just being more amplified and accelerated in many regards. We have a lot of questions coming in from the audience, and I want to transition to a couple of those. So one of the questions was, what are some of the upcoming technologies that are coming in manufacturing that industry is experimenting with or moving towards?
Sure. So the things that we're seeing are the digital transformation in the manufacturing sector. So moving from paper-based systems to digital systems, model-based systems engineering, model-based definition. It's the actual flow from the original equipment manufacturer and flowing things through the supply chain digitally, digital twins, doing a lot of work digitally before we bring work onto machines, and taking a look at how we're going to do all of that. We did some projects when I ran the Office of Manufacturing where we were seeing improvements of 70%, 80% of products moving through the pipeline around that digital transformation. So that's one of them. The other area is additive manufacturing and 3D printing, and how additive manufacturing is accelerating the design process, but it's also accelerating the implementation process. So for example, at Sikorsky, they design everything digitally first, and then they actually 3D print plastic parts for fit and form. And they put it into the helicopter to see if it fits. If it doesn't fit, they print another one, and they print another one, and they print another one. And then once they have a part that has fit and form, they move to function, which means they put it on a machine. And so they know that when it comes off the machine, that it's going to fit, it's going to be there, and they don't have to do iterations. When we were doing iterations on machines, it took weeks to do that. They're now doing it in hours, and accelerating the development. So additive is a critically important part as well. Robotics and automation is another area where we need to get machines to do the work for people we're never going to have. And people need to start thinking about how they can use cobots, which cobots are cooperative robots that work hand in glove with human beings, to be able to do work. There are factories out there that on every production line, there's a cobot that actually makes the box that the assembler is putting the product into, and they work collaboratively with that. And I asked the general manager of this company, I said, why did you do this? He goes, you know how hard it is to find people to make boxes all day long? He goes, it's horrible work. Nobody wants to do it. He says, but that cobot is there putting a box down right on pace with the worker who's assembling the part. He goes, and that allows me to take a job that nobody wants to do, and it allows me to use this technology to be able to get things done. And we have companies all across the state that are looking at how they're doing work cells to replace the work of people they don't have. I'll go into a manufacturing facility and say, okay, the person that was doing that work, what'd you do with them? And they'll say, well, they're over there. And I've upskilled them and reskilled them. Now they're running that machine, and they used to make $20 an hour here. Now they're making $28 an hour. And you go over and you talk to that employee, and they're like, that job's, I hated that job. I love this job. I'm making a lot more money. And so it's not a job elimination strategy, any of these technologies. They are job enhancement strategies. So digital transformation, additive manufacturing, robotics and automation, artificial intelligence, non-destructive testing, laser welding are all technologies that we see in Connecticut that are critical for manufacturers to be able to support their growth. So those are the technologies that I would tell you that are the ones that are most important right now.
That's great. And I just want to really quickly follow up on something, because you started to touch on this when you were framing things as, not being a job elimination strategy, but a job enhancement strategy. And I really like the framing of that. But what do you say to people who are worried that by embracing AI and automation, it's going to replace all of the people at our institutions?
Yeah. I chuckle because I think the same conversation happened when personal computers came out. I think the same conversation happened when smartphones came out. I think the same conversation happened when we went from 8-track cassette to cassettes to CDs to digital music. I kiddingly tell people that if you're having a hard time finding a job, tell everybody you were district manager at Blockbuster Video, because there isn't anybody that can verify that you did or didn't do that. And so the world keeps evolving and the world keeps changing. And the only people who should be afraid of being replaced are people that are afraid of being upskilled and reskilled. You know, I've gotten to the point in my life where I'm not afraid of change anymore. I'm petrified of staying the same because I just think that there are so many exciting opportunities for people in career fields today that don't exist, that didn't exist 5 years ago, and 5 years from now there are going to be new careers that don't exist as well. And I think that we need to have this continuous learning from people, and I think we need to have leaders in companies that are going to sit there and say, okay, I'm going to change the nature of work. I'm not going to replace people. I'm going to upskill and reskill them. How do I upskill and reskill them? And we're going to start to see companies who are going to have to put a greater focus on reskilling and upskilling, but they don't have the capacity and capability to do it. And boy, isn't that an opportunity for us as higher education to say, hey, we're going to be the upskillers and reskillers of your workforce for you. We just need to figure out what skills we need to have for these. And you start to take a look at, you know, how is technology going to revolutionize things on a going forward basis? I'm convinced that my grandchildren will never have to get a driver's license and never have to learn how to drive a car because autonomous vehicles exist. It's just in 16 years from now, are they going to exist in such a way that we're going to redefine industry? We're going to redefine the automotive industry. We're going to redefine what it means to own a car because you're not going to own a car anymore, right? We're going to redefine all of that. Does the entire auto insurance industry go away because there's no more accidents because everybody's moving at a consistent speed and all of that? And so start to think about what the future is. What's the future of the legal profession? Now that you don't need paralegals and you don't need legal research and you don't need a lot of that stuff. And I think that we need to be understanding what that future of work is, and you need to embrace it so that you don't become irrelevant and you're not replaced. We are all very different people today than we were when we started our careers, because if we weren't, we wouldn't be working today. And I just think and we've done it. I think we've done it without knowing we've done it. Like, I don't remember adopting a smartphone and that being a problem for me, right? I remember getting one and saying, hey, this is pretty cool, you know, because any technology that is going to be successful is going to be intuitive and it's going to be easy for people to learn. And I think AI is going to be intuitive. It's going to be easy for people to learn. People are going to adopt it and they're going to be able to take it to greater heights, and they're going to be able to redefine their job and redefine their career.
As I'm listening to you talk, it makes me also think about our general education curriculum, which, you know, really touches on a lot of the durable skills that you talk about, you know, teaching communication and critical thinking, and that, you know, maybe we need to think about change and adaptation as, you know, being part of that mix in such a way, because having to help people understand how to change and how to continuously change is definitely part of what is needed on a regular basis now in this world. So I want to transition to another question. How do you continue to reevaluate the future of work on a year-to-year basis? I've seen a lot of initiatives do this at the beginning, but then stop changing after their initial analysis. What is your process?
That's a great question. So my process is to really lean into what has already happened. And what I mean by that is to really understand where larger companies are adopting technology and how they're adopting the technologies, because, you know, again, the future has already happened. We're just trying to catch up to it. And it really is understanding for us here, again, you know, a regional private university, what's happening in our region? What is industry telling us? What is it that they want and what is it that they need? But more importantly, it's us understanding where the world is going, because they may not know what they want and they may not know what they need. But if we can understand where the world is going, we can then build that into what we're doing in such a way that when our students come out, they can help companies move towards where the world is going and can help accelerate that. So it really requires us to be leaning into what's happening externally, and to really listen to that. So from my perspective, right, I spend a lot of time doing speaking engagements. I spend a lot of time going to conferences. I spend a lot of time with thought leaders, engaging with them. And then I spend a lot of time talking to industry leaders about where they're going. And I have my director of corporate partnerships is talking with industry folks all the time. And every week he does a report to me on what industry is telling us. Right, what he has learned, what industry is telling us. And by the way, industry tells us things without telling us things. Right? So they tell us things through their behavior, not their words. And so we take that all the time, and we talk about that as to what is industry telling us? Where do we need to be shifting, and where do we need to be moving, and where do we need to be going? And we also don't think of things the way they are. We think of things the way they should be. And so we're happy to engage in those conversations with companies that say, hey, listen, we can provide workers for what you need today, but let's provide workers for what you need tomorrow, and let's talk about what we think that's going to be. And now we're creating thought leaders from people who wouldn't necessarily be thought leaders. So our process is to take all of these inputs and to be able to synthesize that, but it really is around listening and leaning into industry and really understanding where they are, where they should be going, and to some degree where they are going.
I really love when you were talking about what industry is telling us and how you can revisit that on a weekly basis. It makes me think of my own experiences and how, there's always something that I'm either reading or seeing or viewing that makes me start to think about how industry is changing and then how we have to adapt as a higher ed institution. I was reading the other day about a bracelet that allows students to the bracelet will take notes for the students. And then I thought about the research that shows how actually the art of writing helps students process information. So without that, what does it look like for them to retain information? But it's still all about, well, then how are we constantly evolving and changing to be able to suit those needs? So I really love that perspective. I have another question in the audience that I want to get to. And the question's about online learning. So how does this model fit into the push for classes to be all online? The argument goes that if students are not given the flexibility of schedule, then enrollment dips. So what's your perspective on online learning in regards to workforce?
It's another great question. So, I think you have to look at the flexibility, the adaptability of education as well. But, when you really think about an undergraduate type of education, personally, I'm not a big fan of online learning, because if it's the durable skills that we need to train, because that's truly what lasts, you're only going to get that through other human interaction. Now, if you're delivering graduate level courses to very senior people who are very busy and have built durable skills, then I think there's a really strong place for that, because it allows you to expand your reach by doing online learning, but it also allows you to expand your students' flexibility and your students' access to education. But I don't see a pathway to building the next generation of global elite workers at an undergraduate level at that 18 to 22 year age by doing it remotely, because I just think that what you're teaching them is so perishable, and what you really need to teach them, which is the durable skills that long last, have to be done in a human to human environment. I think the only way that it can work is in a hybrid environment where you're continually bringing people together intentionally around building durable skills while you're delivering maybe technical things online. But I don't, the remote worker, I'm concerned about the remote worker and how they develop durable skills. Listen, I've led remote work organizations for 40 years. So, I've had remote sales organizations, and I've had to learn how to manage that. Now, that required me to travel a lot to give that, that interaction. And now, obviously, with the tools that we have, much like what we're doing right here, it allows us to deliver a message to greater people and still have some of that interaction. But I think that if it's the durable skills that lead and last, I don't think we can replace that with online learning. And I think there's a place for it around technical skills, but we really need to think about what are we trying to develop as it relates to what the workforce needs, and how does online fit into that? And I think for more senior people it fits. I think in cases where you might need a bigger reach, it works. But 100% online to me is not going to create the kind of success that we want to create in college students. And again, that's the University of New Haven's lane. Right, that's our lane. Other, University of Southern New Hampshire would disagree with me. Right, so 100% online schools would disagree with me. But their mission isn't to create a student who's better than ready, and that really is what I think the future of education is going to be: engaging with industry and providing a robust, rounded student that can succeed in a business environment.
And I suppose if we had more time in the conversation, I think we could unpack also maybe how work-based learning could augment online learning to provide some of the hands-on piece. Because I think you're right, there's a lot of things changing, but definitely needing to focus on those durable skills as you talked about. One of the questions that I just want to touch on very briefly, you had talked about the successful interactions that you've had with businesses. Have you ever received any pushback from them?
We have, for what we generally receive, what we generally get is we get skepticism of whether our model works or not, because they've interacted with academia before and academia has let them down. Right. Well, we engaged with a project and then the students went away at the end of the semester and the project fell by the wayside. And because of that, I had to spend money to fix it. And so that's where you have to bring in that professional project management to say, this project will be done by May 15th. Right? Because that's graduation, right? So it's got to be done by May 15th. Or if we're going to continue it, we'll have student labor in the summer to be able to do that. The second thing I get is we're redefining. So I'll get people that will say, well, yeah, we do internships. And I'm like, yeah, well, this isn't internships. This is a little bit different. And so we have to do a lot of reframing. But at the end of the day, when you're talking to somebody in industry and you tell them, we want to engage with you to help us with curriculum, you tell us you want a student that has real experience, and then you tell us we want a student that has these skills. If you partner with us, we can go ahead and do that. Most of the reaction that I get is, how come I've never heard of this before? How come I've never heard of this before? Why isn't this being done all over the place? And so, and listen, you're gonna always have your skeptics that will say it doesn't work. I don't spend much time with those people at all. And I didn't, my favorite thing when people would tell me as Chief Manufacturing Officer, that won't work in my business. Oh, that's great, Paul, but that won't work in my business. And I would say, you're right, it won't work in your business because you just said it won't work in your business. That's the only reason why it won't work in your business. The other thing is young people don't want to work. Young people don't want to work for you. Right? Because young people do want to work. Everybody wants meaning in work. Everyone wants meaning in life. Your job is to figure out how you provide that meaning. And so, you're never going to get past people's own mindsets. So I find I'm looking for people who can share the vision of what we're doing here, and there's plenty of them. And so I run into people who are skeptical about this. I just move on to find the next person who isn't. And because, by the way, when I do that and when we create the model, those skeptics are then knocking in the door trying to get in, saying, wait a minute, and I'll tell you, we've been doing this for 9 months, and I'm getting calls from major companies saying, hey, all I hear about is what's happening at the University of New Haven. We want to learn more. We want in. And so when you start to do this, you're going to start to get that response from industry. I think industry is so waiting for academia to say, we're here for you. How can we partner together, and how can we do this together?
That's great. I am going to let you use the last question that I share as an opportunity to plug University of New Haven, but I'll preface it as someone put a link in there of the partnership that we developed with University of New Haven. So we're happy that CT State community college students will have an opportunity to go and study at University of New Haven. So what is the best way to prepare our community college students to transfer to UNH?
Yeah, I think the best way to do that is to understand what it is that we're offering, and then figure out how we can serve as the next step up for your students that want to go on to a four-year university as well. And so we're, because of the partnership agreement that we have, and by the way, I think it's important, President Royal, to know that I've had partners that have come to me with needs that I can't solve, and I have referred them to CT State. So I had a company come to me and say, I need CNC programmers. And I've said to them, well, I can't help you, but my good friend Adam Scobie at CT State Housatonic produces these people. I will introduce you to Adam, and I know Adam will take amazing care of you. And the customers come back and say, oh my God, I didn't even know this existed. I can't believe you're doing this. And because we're all part of that same ecosystem. So I think the closer we become, I think something came from CT State Norwalk, from Jane. Jane, I have ASML coming on campus tomorrow. All right, and so I'm going to talk to them about the work that we're doing at CT State around the optical program and how we can take those students and then bring them here to bring them to the next level of what ASML would need. So I think those are the ways that we can figure out how we can work together and how we can prepare students to come into the University of New Haven from CT State. Because I think it's all around how do we help serve industry. We're talking to Sikorsky about what they're looking for engineers. We're talking about a non-destructive testing program with Pratt & Whitney. We're talking with Medtronic about a lab for their surgical robots to do new product development in that lab as well. We're talking to AvantGrid about climate change and how we can build a resiliency center around climate change with some of our students. We're talking to the NSA about our criminal justice students. I mean, when you look at all these, we're talking to accounting firms about what they need for accounting skills. So when you start to look at all of the things that we're doing from a corporate partnership perspective, students that want to continue their education should know that if they come to the University of New Haven, they're going to have some of these real experiential work experiences that are going to really help launch them into great careers.
Well, Paul, I would say that University of New Haven is fortunate to have you, and I can absolutely see why you were named one of the top chief manufacturing officers in the country and the world, because your innovative mindset, your positive orientation, your adaptability to recognizing that we are in a changing ecosystem and we have to constantly pivot, are all the things that I think are really wonderful displays of a workforce leader. So thank you so much for coming and having this opportunity to talk with CT State and inform our strategic planning process. We're better for it.
Well, thank you, and please keep doing the great work that you're doing. All of us working together will really help us provide amazing opportunities for the people that we care about, which is our students. So thank you very much.
And thank you for championing CT State students as well. I know as Chief Manufacturing Officer, you really learned a lot about the community college environment and who we serve and what our role is in this workforce space. And thank you for continuing to be a champion and in recognizing our role in the ecosystem in Connecticut.
It's my pleasure.
Have a good day.
Thank you. Take good care.